You know what I absolutely love? When you can see why it is. When you can look into your own psychology and see why it is the way that you are. God, that just brings music to my ears. It is like the best fitting shoe in the world. It just helps me and my brain so much to understand, to have answers. Sometimes to my own detriment. But I think that there's nothing wrong with that, especially when you seek with an open heart and you can just trust yourself and trust that you are being guided to certain things for a reason, because I don't believe that anything is an accident, and I just think it's really interesting that I would dive so deep into ancestral healing, starting around 6 years ago, and going pretty deep into that work and uncovering for the first time in my life my lineage and the stories behind certain family members, and piecing it together in how I operate. Like, even if you don't believe, it's so funny what I'm about to say when you think about it. I'm trying to tend to people who are heavily into reincarnation right now. Even if you don't believe in epigenetics and you just think it's all about reincarnation, when really, when you're tending to the masses, usually it's the opposite. Like, epigenetics and reincarnation, I believe, are one and the same. I believe they're one and the same, because I believe that we choose our families based on the psychology and the perfect puzzle pieces that they create for us to fit into. I don't believe it's a mistake. I think it's all one and the same. Epigenetics and reincarnation are one. We do not choose these bodies and these families by mistake. I had a particular psychology that I came here to resolve, that I met with my team in spirit, the Ascended Masters, before I came here into this life, and chose my family, my current family, that I have long-standing karmic bonds and ties to. So in a way, we are all family. We're all soul family regardless of flesh, but we keep reincarnating together. Why? Why? Because perhaps each of us hold the keys to help us unlock the things that we need to unlock, because the keys in which we hold for each other are the triggers and the wounds that we came here to work on and to heal. So it's not necessarily about resolving karma with another person. It's about resolving the karma inside of yourself that you've created through the choices that you've made throughout your lifetimes that have created the psychology that you have. So that in and of itself is the doorway. It is the path, your life circumstances, the people that you're involved with in your life, the people that you have the most intense relationships with, the things that you have the most triggers around, like that's your work. That's your work. That's your gift. That's what you came here to work on in this life. Now, wow, I didn't expect to go there. So, if you're anything like me, you can have this conceptually understood, right? But you can have it stop there and stay in your mind and intellectualize and not let this land in your body. And you could go through that mental rodeo of looping and looping back and forth from one separate self to the other, back and forth, because that's what it does. That's what separate selves do. And IFS terminology, parts, in modern psychology, they call it parts. It's just like letting all of the parts run the show that ultimately steal your life force, keep you trapped in illusion and separation and duality consciousness, and ultimately the victim drama triangle hoopla. So when you step back from that, there's a chance for deeper attunement to not only your individual, like not only to your soul, but as well as your spirit team, God, higher self. But I was going somewhere else first before that tangent came, which was, I think I'm forgetting it. All right, that's where I was going. If you let things just stay stopped in your mind and letting the separate selves run amok, you can not let it fully embody into your being and let it sit with like your higher wisdom and let it just stay stuck because of the fear or whatever blocks that you may have of what it would mean to fully feel the responsibility that you have to make a discerning choice and a discerning, having just like a deeper level of discernment, because you can, if you're anything like me, try to endure. This is also 5 Personality Patterns is a fantastic book if you're ever curious to know more about this. The enduring pattern of I will just make this work, because you think that the prize is the outcome, which is an illusion created by a separate self, created by trauma. So the trauma that you may or may not be enacting, in my case, is like, oh, I had a broken family. My parents didn't work out. So deep inside of me is this like obsessive need to fix my family and to have a happy marriage and a happy relationship, and enduring whatever I have to do to get that picture, that outcome manifested for that part. But I don't even know, if I'm not conscious enough, if I'm not attuned enough to my higher self, to my spirit team, to God, that I'm just being ran by a program. A program, separate self, same thing. Part, separate self, program. They're all the same thing. If you believe in reality simulator stuff, I'm your girl. If you are a mainstream hoopla, trauma resolution focused psychology person, I'm your girl. If you're a very spiritual minded ascended master kind of chick, person, human, I'm your girl, because I get it. I get it. I see patterns and I read between the lines. We're all saying the same thing. So the point is to not be ran. Oh, and if like in Reincarnation or Epigenetics, I'm your girl. If the whole point is to not be ran by your own creation, because whether it's a part, a program, or a separate self, it was something that was created for you to be able to cope with reality, with something that you were experiencing, whether it was this lifetime or not, whether it was your ancestors, it was your 7-time great uncle, twice removed. It lives in your body. Besser Van der Polk with The Body Keeps the Score talks about this. It lives in us, deep within the subconscious, within the tissues, the marrow, like anything that's ever been here. We've all been drinking the same water. We were drinking. Isn't that so cool? Like the waters that the dinosaurs were drinking, we're drinking still. It's all a closed system. There's no new water. It's just, it's all recycled water. So you best believe we're in this intense precipice of great change, because in a way, the energies have never been what they are, you know? And yet we can feel everything and feel all of us because the water is the memory keeper. And what's life? What has to happen? What has to be present for life to exist on Earth? Water. In the universe, water. Well, physical form that we know in this density. But there's also the other realms that don't need anything. Cinemasters don't need to be drinking and having baths. Anyways, so where the heck was I going with all of this? Oh yeah, it's just being able to take things one step deeper and to do the harder tasks sometimes, which is to go within. Because if you're anything like me, you can be afraid. You can be afraid of your feelings, afraid of the sensations, afraid of the storm in your mind. But there's really nothing to be afraid of, because it's all like, you know, in the Bible, it says like he walked through the valleys of the shadows of death, not the valley of death, the valley of the shadows of death. And same with the Buddha, the demons of Mara. They could like go and like tempt and like be all up in your face, but it's not actually real. We believe that it's real because we have been programmed by our sensory selves that it's real. That something that happened to you when you were 6 years old, if someone looks at you in the same way that your dad did, you know, it's a PTSD trauma response all over again. Even if you can't understand it, it's like a physical reaction in your body, and then all of a sudden you're not present. You're being overran by the program of your body, of the sensations, and you can't be in the here and now. You can't be in you know. So that's why it's never been more crucial to go deeper inside of your own internal being and process. And if you're afraid to do that, like call upon God, call upon your most trusted spirit guide, the ascended masters, whatever. I use Mother Mary a lot, I think subconsciously. I don't like necessarily call to her, but she's like, she holds the office of the Great Mother for this planet. And her, I just get chills even talking about that, because like she is mom, you know? And so that's what I use. And when I remember, like that's always a key indicator for me. If I'm ever like in my head and I'm feeling anxious, I'm like, am I plugged in to source right now? Because if I am, I have a deeper level of trust. But when it's just me up here in my subconscious patterned response mechanisms, like if I'm just in my, you know, programs, oh my God, there's no God there. I'm just being ran at that point. Ran by what? That which you can create can be uncreated. And some of us create for ourselves to no fault of our own. There is no room for shame or blame or self-hatred here on this channel. Like, you may see me go through it. You may have seen a lot of me go through it in the past, but we're letting that go. You didn't do anything wrong. Something happened that was outside of your control, and you did your best to respond the best that you could in the moment with what you had available to you, and you did nothing wrong. Things happen in our lives, and things that we don't even remember from lifetimes ago, from our bloodline, that we just don't understand why we are the way that we are, and why we have the patterns that we have, and why we do the things that we do, and why we think the way that we think, you know? Sometimes this life is way bigger. It seems too big for us to hold on our own, because we're not supposed to hold it on our own. And this is why I think this world that we know it to be exists to distract us and to get us far away from our source and our God, you know, and our trust and our faith and our like literal source. Our self gets us so far away from ourselves. All the distractions. It's like Plato's allegory of the cave. You know, I had the pleasure of having a very short but potent conversation with Peter Kingsley, Dr. Peter Kingsley, the Peter Kingsley. And I had asked him, I didn't know, I wasn't expecting to have this conversation. It was one of those things where I like was ferociously researching and found an old phone number where when he used to live in the area that I live currently, and I called it and I left a message. And sure enough, days later, I don't know, I get a call from this number. It was a block number, and I didn't recognize the voice, and I was a little off put by the voice because it was like a different, I didn't even know what accent I was listening to. And so I was, you know, he was like, "Is this Summa?" But it didn't sound like that. It sounded like, you know, something else. And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Someone left a voicemail." And as he started talking, I started to like realize who it was. And I was like, "Oh my God." And I was just like trying to keep my cool. And I was just like, "Oh my God, yes. You know, this is me at 24. You know, I'm not even 24 at this point. This is me at like 23 years old, you know, and I had just like ferociously devoured so much of his material that I could get my hands on, because this world is so strange. I ended up landing and babysitting the now partner that I've been with, for the partner that I've been with for the last 3 years, his kid. Like, it's a weird world. I ended up babysitting for him and his then partner, their kid, when she was a literal like toddler, like not even a toddler. And like I was reading from his library. Like, we had a special connection through this whole time, but it was never like that. Get that out of your mind. Anyways, I digress. So I'm listening to him. Why, gosh, I'm so funny with my stories and my tangents, but I didn't know what to ask him, but I just ended up like, just this came out of my mouth. "What do you think about Plato's allegory of the cave?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" There's no allegory. It's the cave. Like, we are in the cave, the projection, the matrix. It's like we're so fixated on what we see out there, and our interpretations of what we see out there is so indicative of what we've been programmed with. And so our duty and our task in this lifetime, if you so choose to accept, I mean, this is just your choice. Like, I don't know what your plan was whenever you wrote it down with your spirit team before you came here. Like, I don't know. That's up to you, you know. And you can only know if you like get quiet and like, and ask. Like, even just like more than get quiet, it's like, get quiet and like ask for help. Be like, show me a sign that this is right. Like, show me a sign that this, like, what I'm feeling, I'm not crazy. Like, show me a sign, like, that I'm on the right path. Like, and your life, you will be given that. You will be given that sign. You ask and you will receive it. Go beyond the superficial. Like, go to the deep root of life for yourself. This is your life. This isn't about manifesting a brand new Tesla. This is your life we're talking about. Don't let the shiny, sparkly things in this world distract you. Like, this is your life. This is your life. This is about like the freedom of your soul and your consciousness. Do you want to be just like trapped in the illusion? Yeah, sure, it's fun. It's fun to play. I like playing. But you don't have to be of it. You can be in it, but not of it. Do you want to be ran by lies? Do you want to be ran by the lie? All my females out there. Man, I'm coming for you next. All my females out there listening to this. Do you want to just subscribe to the messaging that you're only of value in your youth, with your body and a certain body type, with your face looking the way that it does right now? Like, what's going to happen to your self-worth 50 years from now if we're all still on the planet? You know, like, do you want your worth and your sense of self-love to come from your appearance, like, and from the outside beauty standards? Like, I understand, like, how tough it can be. My identity was centered, like, from the outside world, was centered around how smart I was and how I looked. That was what my identity was. Do you understand the dark night of the soul that I went through when I gave birth to my son? Do you understand how hard and challenging it's been for me to grow up and grow older when my whole sense of self-worth has come from my sex appeal? Thank God I started doing this work in my early 20s, and I like cut all my hair off and was wearing turbans and like bandanas and like wearing all kinds of, I became like completely different than who I grew up being. I had like highlights in my hair in high school and like short shorts and like wearing all the things that you wear when you're, you know, a teenager. And like, I was like your quintessential American. I was like Taylor Swift, like straight up, like, and like, do you want your sense of, like, you can still do those things. You can still wear makeup. You can still wear nice clothes. You can still feel good in your body, but you can't let society try to tell you who you are. Because my God, there's no good place that comes from that. Okay, men. I mean, you kind of get where I'm going. I don't need to give you this, but like, you know, to like give you every example in the book, you know what the societal programming is for men. It's just like, are you useful? Can you do something? What happens if you break your leg? Or you get too crotchety and old and immobilized? Like, what then? You know, your sense of worth. Pew! Your sense of self-security has to come from Source and God and your faith and your trust and your path and your purpose for being here and like having a good time in the process. It's not like a serious, like, we have to just be so serious and do this work, but it's like, you can do this work and also have a good time doing this work and loving yourself. I think for me, and if you're anything like me, self-love can be not a natural disposition in terms of like you being used to it. Like, self-criticism is like the default, right? And like, you know, not being kind to yourself. But you can reprogram yourself. You can reprogram yourself with the love of God as your baseline. Like, you don't have to just like use your mind to like do mantras, even though it's extremely useful and I highly recommend it. But it's like, let that come from the natural love that life has for you. Like, it's not manufactured. It's from within you, and you let it out. You let it come out. This is a whole process, but, and it just takes time. None of this is overnight. If you're anything like me, you're like a, you know, you're spry chicken still. And, you know, I think Saturn Returns has helped me be able to see that things don't happen overnight. And this is a process. It's an integration process, you know? It's just how life is. You know, you live in the 3D world. Things take time. So if you don't fix all your problems in a week, like, congratulations, you're a human being. Like, you're not going to. You're not going to. But a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. So, thanks for being with me. Thanks for going on this wild ride of a video. And I'll talk to you soon. We're gonna have so much fun on this channel. I'm so excited. Bye.